Good day. I'm Jim Winship, Senior Diplomatic Correspondent for Diplomatic Connections magazine. Welcome. We're glad to have you with us today, and joining us as our guest is Ambassador Ryszard Schnepf of the Republic of Poland. Ambassador, we're delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I have to ask you, there's so many things that are fascinating about your background. Your career coincides with the emergence of the Solidarity movement in Poland, and initially, though, you were trained as an academic historian, not a diplomat.
Exactly. It was kind of an escape in our situation in the communist Europe.
Yes,
that part.
yes.
Just not to get involved in politics, which was unilateral. You had to join the party to become somebody. Other possibility to have your personal development and professional development was to follow the academic career, so to go into the research, teaching students. So that's what I did.
When did you make the change? I mean, what initially motivated you or mobilized you, to politicized you, I guess is what I should say?
Actually, I've been living with international affairs, foreign policy for almost whole, let's put it that way, intellectual part of my life. But I have never been thinking about it seriously until one of my friends who was a member of opposition and was working at the Warsaw University as well. He invited me to join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs since the ministry was desperately looking for new faces. I mean, new Poland, new faces. The new government of Tadeusz Mazowiecki wanted to show that in all areas, Poland is different, and of course, the diplomatic service, the foreign service, is one of the most important. Is one of the most exposed externally. So the academic circles were kind of a natural choice. We were more capable in languages. We knew better the world. We understood probably better the world than others. And it all began in 1991.
So how were you recruited then to the Foreign Service, and did you have any training before they put you in the field, or did it all happen very quickly?
Very little. There was no time for a real training, professional training. I just received a phone call, and it sounds like a little bit in one of those special films about mafia. I received an offer
you
cannot refuse. That's what I exactly was said. You know, we want to offer you something that you cannot refuse to represent Poland.
Yes, yes.
And my first...
That would be a pretty hard offer to turn down, it would.
It's a good news and a bad news at the same time. Yes. On one side, my first diplomatic post and position was ambassador's post. I didn't go through the whole regular way of the diplomatic career, from the third, second, first secretary, counselor, so on and so forth. I just started from the top. When you come back, you don't know what to do next. But it was like attending the classes in a very speeded way.
Yes, yeah, I understand. Well, clearly political events in Poland and the emergence of the Solidarity movement, the collapse of communist rule, the end of Soviet dominance, had a dramatic impact. I mean, that you lived through all of that. How would you describe the impact of Solidarity, not so much on your career, but on your life?
Well, this was, first of all, probably the only such experience possible, to live with 10 million people united. We really felt that we Poles together at this moment. We're proud to be Polish, we were proud to have solidarity, we were proud to have Lech Wałęsa. And of course, there was a lot of enthusiasm and authentic involvement. We're all poor people. We just wanted to change our country. We didn't know how to do that. So many mistakes, many adventures, and of course a great disillusionment at the end, which means that when on December 13, 1991, 81, the martial law was declared in Poland. We live with the solidarity actually without believing that it may come to the successful end. Mm-hmm. Please remember that in those years, practically there was no analytical force, no professional opinion that the communism may come to its end. Nobody believed it.
Right.
In 80, 81, we all thought that these bipolar world is for centuries, and there's a long, long path in front of us, like a never-ending story. So 10 years later, the collapse of the communist system surprised all people, mm-hmm. even Polish people, although we knew that something is coming to its end since 1988.
When did things change? I mean, when did people begin to believe it was possible? Was it the election of John Paul II as Pope? Did that make a difference? Was it events in the Soviet Union, Gorbachev's efforts at reform?
Well, the election of John Paul II gave hope to the people. I remember the first visit of the Pope in Warsaw, when over 1 million people gathered in one square, and then we realized how many people are against, because there were people who were at the same time against the communist authority.
Yes.
So all of a sudden we knew how many we are and where's the strength of this movement. But the solidarity was born as a result of the visit in a moral sense 2 years later.
Yeah.
I would say that I personally began to believe that this may be the end of the communism in our part of the world, our part of Europe particularly, when I saw that Polish, still communist authorities, they let the refugees from DDR, the communist Germany, to come to Poland and to stay there, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. to avoid the persecution. It means that something happened even in our camp. And then you have the Hungary, and the
opening of the border with Austria.
Well,
and things.
Because of course we had first elections in Poland. It was yes. Next year we will have 25 years of yes. First Polish on East European free elections. But it was like a first start, the beginning, without believing that we take over. I still remember the words of some of the leaders of Solidarity telling that when we got the results of the first free elections in Poland, which happened on June 4, 1989, we realized that we have to take the responsibility for the country, and we didn't know what to do. This was such a great surprise right. that half of the parliament and the whole Senate was taken by Solidarity candidates.
Now, I have to ask you, I was struck by the fact you were a Latin American historian, essentially, and a good deal of your work, at least from what I can read, was dealing with social movements and trade unionism in Latin America. Did you learn anything from that academic study that helped inform your involvement or the involvement of others in the emergence of Solidarity?
It may sound to many Latin American specialists here in the United States odd, but we not only learned, but it was a a very specific and intentional escape from our reality. Means we could not write and make an honest research on Polish contemporary history.
Understood.
But we could on Latin American. So if you were studying or doing the research on social movement, or as I did, on political parties in Latin America, with a lot of things very similar, you can analyze at the same time the Polish political situation. And I still remember that during one of my classes and giving a lecture on Latin American parties, populist parties, mass parties in 20s of the past century, the police entered and arrested me. Because they thought that I was talking about the current political system in Poland.
And you were, sort of.
So they were right.
No, that's fascinating to me because, I mean, you see it in other places. You certainly saw a tradition in Russia of talking about Tsarist history as a way of criticizing the party obliquely with a certain, as you say, kind of safety net in there as well.
In my particular case, I did my PhD on Acción Democrática, Venezuelan party, which was first social democratic political party in that region. And what I learned, among others, is the importance of the feminine movement. I mean, this was the first party in the region that attracted the women, and changing the electoral rule, they won the elections easily, because many of women in Venezuela just went for voting, which
so there was a gender gap there before there was a gender gap.
They opened the political spectrum, which was completely new, and changed the country for many years. As you know, we all know it didn't end happily. I mean, I'm talking about the current situation.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your own career path, about your early postings, and where you've been in your career.
Well, I've been. There were many diplomatic posts, but all of them, almost all of them, on the ambassador's level. So my first post, very challenging, since just a couple of weeks before I was just a university professor, was to represent my country in Uruguay and Paraguay. So I remember it very well because my first trip to Asunción, to Paraguay, was emotionally very important to me because I've been teaching my students about the war of Chaco, la Guerra de Chaco.
Yes.
And also Paraguayan War, and Triple Alliance War, 19th century. And I based my classes, my lectures on documents, on books. It's like, you know, teaching something that you have never seen and finally think, does it really exist?
Right.
And all of a sudden, after so many years, I landed there on this very reddish ground. I touched it. Yes, it exists. And to meet these people of a Guarani culture, and a very specific history of that country was really fascinating for a historian, but also for a young diplomat.
Yes. One of the history of the Guarani, and you think about the film, The Missionary, and that whole story cycle is very inspiring and frightening at the same time.
And teaching a lot of things even for the contemporary people. Then I spent, it's been over 5 years that I spent in that region, and then in Central America. Poland.
And you were accredited to virtually all of Central
American country. We have more regional policy. The interests of Poland are not focused on a specific country. these are the security matters.
Yes.
And also the Polish community, which is not very big, but still needs to be taken care of. And it was a completely different experience. For many people in the world, probably Central American countries are more or less the same, and they are very different, even by the human character. So if you talk to Tico, Costa Rican citizen, he's completely different from Nika, which is a Nicaraguan, or somebody from Honduras. Different culture, different it's a background. So it was a great lesson, and a lesson also of a different kind of diplomacy, where you deal with a bloc of the country aspiring to have a new agreement with the United States, Canada, and Mexico. They were just elaborating at that time. And also Panama, a very specific country, one leg in Central America, one leg in South America. So
and a canal between the two.
A canal, of course, the dividing, which is something really unique. I mean, Panama Canal is something that I recommend everybody to see it. And I'm talking about the diplomatic post. My last post was in Spain, so in Madrid. It's a wonderful country, and we enjoyed it so much. It's a great experience. Monarchy is also a little bit a different kind of practice, diplomatic practice. But we enjoyed it so much.
And you've been here just a year, not even a year at this point.
A little bit more than a year.
A little bit more. Okay. Good. I have to note, I noticed at the top of every official communication from the embassy, there is this line: to serve Poland, to build Europe, to understand the world. Would you sort of elucidate that for us, parse that for us? And I'm particularly interested in the build Europe part of it too.
All right. Let's start with the beginning, which is to serve Poland.
Yes.
It's our duty. It's an honor. It's a part of our life, and I understand that every American people are very patriotic, and they understand that to serve countries is, and particularly for the diplomatic service, foreign service, is a kind of a challenge, but at the same time an honor. So this is our first point of reference. And Europe. Poland joined the European Union in 2004. Probably this was one of the most important moments in our, say, 20 and 21 century history. Simply, we joined the club that we mentally have never abandoned, but the history cut us off from this mainstream, which was the Western Europe.
Right.
We came back with our values, with our force, with our young generation.
I think it's important, too, to reinforce that, and you can build on it, Ambassador. I think Americans either don't know or don't sort of fully understand Polish identity in the sense that our country never disappeared from the map. Your country literally disappeared from the map of Europe for decades. So coming
over 120 years. So it's like several generations, and living in a territory which does not exist as a state, and maintain the national culture against the oppressors. It's a very difficult mission, and probably this is why Polish people are more concerned about the independence, freedom, and sovereignty than many others who held it constantly, permanently,
right,
without losing it. It's like just like to appreciate something that you lost for a while, and you rediscovered it, you found it, your treasury, which is freedom and independence.
You've said that really much more articulately than I, but yeah, it's true that that Polish sense of identity is what sustained Poland when the boundaries of Poland on the map were gone, and that's a different experience, I think.
But joining the European Union is, and the importance of that moment is very important to explain here in the United States, because it, for Polish people and for millions coming from other new members, it proved to be kind of a liberation. For the first time, we could go around without even passports, with your ID, no visas, possibility to choose the place you live, the job, whatever the country is, to change your life, to be much more free than we were before. And finally, which is also very important, to understand the world, which means understand the world and diversity, and to respect it. We are different in different parts of the world, different religions, different habits. We have to respect it. If we are in Indonesia, in Japan, in Arab countries, or Latin American countries, every region, every nation, all people, they have their own specific values that is good to understand and respect.
Now, I'm going to go out of order with questions just because you've raised something that I think we need to talk about explicitly as we sit here. The issue of the identity of Europe or Russia, in a sense, seems very much at stake in the events that are unfolding in Ukraine right now. We've seen Russia putting pressure on Ukraine not to join in the European Union, Mr. Putin pressuring Ukraine to join a newer grouping of former Eastern European states. What are the lessons that Poland can share with Ukraine about this experience, and how do you balance being where you are, I mean, literally between old Europe and old Russia?
Well, first of all, the future of Ukraine is extremely important, but not only for Poland, although we understand it better because this is one of our biggest neighbors.
Of course.
And it's very important to have a successful, democratic, prosperous neighbor that you can share values, you can trade, you can exchange your experiences, you can have a good cooperation and people-to-people contacts. So this is our vital interest, to have a good neighbor in the best sense of the word. At the same time, we are the country that understands very well what means to change the system, which was like in Ukraine, a Soviet-oriented economic system,
yes,
which collapsed at the very beginning, and how difficult it was to rebuild it, to modernize it, and to join the world. Let's put it that way. We were closed in the Comecon, which is a communist economic system,
yes,
at those years. So Ukraine is to some extent in a very similar position today, even worse. They are probably more bankrupt financially than Poland was at the very beginning of our transformation period. But our experience shows how to do it and that we can be successful. Poland today, economically and socially, is one of the most successful European countries, which is a good example to follow the path. How to make a good and transparent privatization, because the strong and healthy economy is based on the private sector, not the public sector. How to control the banking system. Let me remind to the public that despite the crisis in the financial system, not only in the European Union but also in the United States, Poland defended its monetary system, simply because the banks were regulated. We have this constitutional norm not to overcome the 60% public debt, which is in our constitution, and it's a kind of an obligation to the government to guard it, limit countries that fell into the problems in European Union, they went up to more than 100%
Yes.
of GDP, right? So our experience also in a very practical sense is good for Ukraine, but I would say that we probably understand how important can be, and as a changing factor to be free as a man, but also as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So politicians, economic leaders are going to Maidan, to Kiev, to share their experience, to talk to the people. And also because we believe it's good for our part of the world. And I'm very happy that more and more people in the United States, they understand that the positive change for Ukraine is also a positive change for a global politics.
Is it possible for Ukraine or any of the other countries of the region, but Ukraine is the focus now, do you think it's possible to have a foot in both camps? That is, to build a relationship with Moscow and at the same time build a relationship with the EU?
We don't put it that way, that choosing the European path, they have to break with Russia. Let them have a good commercial, cultural relations. If you want or not, they have a common history as we have, only we have the very centuries ago and the recent Soviet history put together the Ukrainian and the Russian part.
Yes.
But nobody is expecting the Ukrainians to break with the Russian Federation. But we are talking about the values and the way the business is being done. We are talking about the state of rule of the law. We are talking about the democracy, the human rights. So we want the Ukraine to go on our side particularly with those achievements that the whole Europe and the United States is offering. And this is not something new. Simply, for some people, it may be a little bit more difficult to rule in a country under the democratic system.
Yes.
You have to ask the people, you have to make a transparent election. Perhaps
and you have
not
to
everybody is so
that
happy
you may
about
not
it.
like
Exactly.
sometimes.
Exactly.
Exactly, yes. So how would you, we were talking around it, but let's be more explicit. How would you characterize relations between the United States and Poland now? Obviously, there's a huge Polish-American community here that, if anything, is more fiercely Polish prideful than Warsaw.
It's been a long history, first of
Yes.
all. So this is not just the decades tradition. These are centuries. We have the first Polish groups settled in the United States in the beginning of 19th century. And I visited Pennsylvania. I met third and fourth generation of Polish people who came in the second half of 19th century as miners to work in the coal industry. Mm-hmm. And I mixed that with Welsh people, and now we have this mixed
those
families.
are my ancestors.
Okay, so there are many
Right.
people like that living, very, very noble, very, very good people. And practically wherever you go, somebody will tell you that, oh, look, jak się masz, I have my Polish roots. They don't speak too much, but they are very conscious about the roots, the country that their parents, mostly and grandparents,
Right.
came from. Now, this is the history. Kościuszko and Pułaski, they are the symbols.
Of course.
But we have millions Polish immigrants who came here to the United States and worked here. First of all, they found wonderful conditions to develop their own family life and prosperity. But at the same time, they built this country together with Italian, Irish, Welsh, and other people who came to the United States. So they share this feeling of being American and Polish, and this is very strong. Now, we have, on a political level, we are one of the probably strongest allies of the United States. We follow the U.S. Ideas how to share our security with other countries. We've been to Iraq, we're in Afghanistan, we're in many other places. We want to build our joint defense system and security system with the United States and with NATO. We have an excellent personal contacts and relations between our president, President Obama, and Vice President, who was exactly in this place on a National Day of Poland. He was kind enough to visit this residence, which is not very frequent situation.
Yes.
And share with us those moments, are very enthusiastic about our friendship. We have a growing commercial exchange, which could be much bigger, of course, according to the potential of particular the United States, but the growing potential of Poland, not only as a producer, but also as a consumer. We have every year more and more people that come to the United States as tourists or scientists or engineers on a training, with training groups from those companies who settle in Poland, like Sikorsky company, like many others that created jobs in Poland, but at the same time they are a symbol of a good cooperation. If there is anything that I would ask for, is theoretically a small item, but very significant to the Polish people, which is non-visa entry to the United States.
Right. I was going to ask you about the visa waiver program, because I think that's an issue most Americans are not necessarily aware of. Poland does not participate in that program yet. And you are, I think the American government terminology is a roadmap country. Is that right? I mean, looking at the possibility of engendering or joining that
Correct.
visa waiver. Why is it so important to Poland to have that visa waiver status?
Only in symbolic terms, because today Polish people, those who want to change their life and look for a job in another country, they choose mostly the European Union country for a very simple reason. They go there, they work legally. They have the distance is much closer.
Yes.
So to take your family with a car and go to Paris or even to London or Spain or Italy or even Portugal is not a problem. It's just 2 days drive, let's say. But also the European medical security system allows you to feel secure, particularly when you are with your family and something might happen. You have free access to the basic medical assistance. So this is where Polish people who want to work, who look for a work, they go to. Who comes to the United States? They are tourists, they are people in exchange, and members of those families who live here.
Right. Right.
And of course, the number is not that big, but symbolically, it looks very bad, because if there is a friendship, and we have this friendship, if we are allies, so many people, we share the dangers before in Iraq and now in Afghanistan. We have other plans. One might ask the question, how can you measure the question with a percentage or even 0.2% of those who get refused the visas? And this is why Polish people cannot get the visa waiver program, and we still have to apply for a visa. So we should get rid of this.
The standard that's being applied is a measure of how many people who apply for visas from various countries are refuse those visas.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's higher for Poland than it is for the Western European countries. Is that right?
It is higher. It is higher, and this is out of our control, of course. This is the people are coming to the consulates, and they are asking, if you are a single person, you are under 30 years old, and you have no good bank account, there's a little chance that you can get a visa. You have a good bounce, good strong links in Poland, economic and family links. Otherwise, you could be seen as a person looking for a work somewhere.
Yes, yeah.
But at the same time,
the fear would be they wouldn't come back from the United States.
And they would, to an extent, they stay beyond the permitted terms. At the same time, the number of the people coming from Poland, if they are such people, and probably some of them, of course, come to the United States just because they want to improve their life.
Of course.
And since they have the families here, it's easier to begin your new situation with a family backup. But this is not a danger in any sense to the job situation in the United States, of course. We are talking about the relatively low numbers. At the same time, it's good to say that the fastest growing Polish community in the United States is not in New York or Chicago, it's Florida.
Interesting.
Means more and more Poles go to Florida, they buy the second house. There's a big community, it's 500,000 of Polish people living in Florida. Many of them, they are retired people, or they bought the properties from Poland and they travel there. Mm-hmm. And some of them coming with their own jets.
We used to we still do, refer to snowbirds in the United States. These are Polish snowbirds in a sense. Let me change to a more strategic issue, and that's the question of Poland's involvement with missile defense programs and the American missile defense, the NATO missile defense ideas. What is the status of that? At one point, the program was sort of suspended, and then it was recreated in a sense, or redesigned.
You are talking about the fourth phase of the missile defense system, which was abandoned. The program was abandoned by the U.S. government for many reasons, but mainly, as we were said, because the project was not as necessary as it looked before. At the same time, there were more research programs which would be probably more practical in the third phase. So the U.S. focused on the third phase, which involves also Poland.
Yes.
We're talking on one of the bases located in Poland, which is a proposal of the U.S. government. And of course, there are different voices, sometimes gossips, that are telling that the program will not be continued, or they put the question mark regarding the situation, political situation in the region. I must say that none of that is confirmed. On the contrary, we have received a numerous confirmation from the U.S. high-level officials, and Secretary of State John Kerry among them, during his last visit in Warsaw at the beginning of November, that the program will be executed according to the schedule, which means that we should have the base ready in 2018. And the beginning of the groundwork should start in 2 years earlier. And this is the stage, this is the place where we are now. I understand that there are different discussions but we are talking about the more sophisticated and wider program, which is also partly a European defense system. So it's not focused, it's not concentrated on any specific issue. It's a long-term defense system that the European Union, in particular the NATO system, is trying to build in Europe, and to, of course, to make it working together with the American system.
And the Russian Federation and Mr. Putin, of course, have been very much opposed, charging that any such missile defense system, well, is really directed against the Russian Federation. Will Poland, do you think, stand by its decision to allow the building of this base, to participate in a European-wide missile defense system?
Well, on one hand, we understand that Mr. Putin, President Putin, can say anything.
Of course.
He's a ruler of his country. At the same time, we have our independent decisions. We have the communication channels, not only the US, Russia, or NATO Russia, but also Poland has its own channels of communication, and I don't think that the missile defense system is not against Russia, first of all, and secondly, we want to present a transparent system that could be available also to our Russian partners, so they could confirm the role of the missile defense system located not only in Poland, but also in Romania, and also the naval part, which is in Spain mostly located.
Let me shift gears and talk. It wasn't long ago, just before the end of the year, that Lech Walesa visited Washington, and the embassy hosted a screening of, I think, what is the third episode of what will be 4 episodes of sort of a biographic movie of Solidarity and Walesa. How is Solidarity taught in the schools? How is Lech Walesa viewed in the schools? I mean, what are young people learning about the history that you and I lived, but is the past for them?
Of course, they don't remember those years. The history, probably, I cannot tell you from my own experience, but I can suppose that in Polish tradition, this is the family teaching the history mostly, more than the school.
Interesting.
Particularly the contemporary history. This is to sharing the experience of your grandparents and parents with the kids. So how the young kids, they view Lech Walesa and Solidarity depends who teaches them. Depends on the family history.
Of course.
And there are different family history, of course. Those who, probably in the majority, was to some extent practically or at least morally involved in Solidarity movement. But there are also people who were not or were against.
Yes.
I can imagine the situation that during the routinary everyday dinner, father and mother are recalling those moments, and of course the kids are listening, and this is the best lesson they can get. But of course, very objective.
Of course.
It's a particular family history put upon the history of Poland rather than the universal one.
Yeah. And it sounds as if, I mean, that is the way, in fact, Polish history has been handed down for centuries, and that's part of the emotional content of that history as well.
The family is a history of family is a history of the country. And in our tradition, this popular way of touching the history through your contact with your parents, grandparents, and grandparents sometimes is very typical. It's an everyday situation. perhaps because of our history, we just respect it, we like it. We focus on attention on our past. Who we are now comes from the past.
As long as we're talking about that sort of tradition of Polish history, fit the Catholic Church and Poland's Catholic identity. It is perhaps the most strongly self-identified Catholic nation in Europe. Pope John Paul II became a kind of icon, literally and figuratively, of the Polish dream of freedom and then the Polish reality of freedom. What is the role of the Church in daily life, but also in the politics of democratic Poland today?
I think I would not dare to say really seriously how is the religious life in Poland, the politics. You may draw different conclusions looking into different events in Poland. Poland is in change right now. Yes. But there's absolutely 100% truth that the Polish tradition and the national identity is strongly based on Catholic faith, simply because this was the point of reference and identity during those years that you mentioned before, 123 years of disappearance from the Europe's map. So you had the Orthodox Church coming from Tsarist Russia. You had the mostly Protestant church coming from Austrian-Hungarian Empire and Prussia and then Germany, and the only Catholic part was Poland. So Polish meant Catholic immediately. Today, of course, the contemporary society in Poland is different, particularly after the regaining the independence and the freedom. The free society is more eager to choose their own identity. There are young groups who have different values. It's like in any other country. But still, of course, the position of the Catholic Church, if you compare with other countries, is relatively strong. It's close to how it is in Spain, perhaps. Although the Spanish youth is probably much more rebel and indifferent.
This is another parallel between your work in Latin American history and the role of the Church and the history in Poland in many ways as well.
But the difference, of course, is that if you look into the history of Catholic Church in Latin America, the popular church, the grassroots church was very important in the history of Latin America.
There's more than one Catholic church.
Exactly, that's what there's more than one Catholic church in Latin America.
And to a degree that's true in Poland as well. I mean, if memory serves, the hierarchy of the church was much more reluctant to support solidarity than the popular church, than the people in the pews, as we say.
Of course, the symbol of Popiełuszko, the priest who was killed by the secret police agents, as a symbol of a man who served to the people and went out of the box. Everybody has its box.
Of course. Of course. Let me ask an energy question or two. I'm conscious of time and we need to be wrapping up. But Poland has always been known literally sometimes as coal land. And we've talked about the history of coal mining, and alongside the shipyard workers, coal miners were very much a part of the Solidarity Union movement. And yet the direction the world is moving is to be expressing much deeper environmental concerns, green energy and so forth. How does Poland deal with that transition when coal has been so much a part and is Poland's primary energy source?
Well, we are the victim of the heavy industry development in the communist times, where we were building factories based on coal mostly, of course, producing the tanks and aircrafts and all heavy weapon, first of all. And we are aware that we have to change the situation, that our first energy source is the coal. It's, we can go through two different ways, or to limit step by step the coal-based energy plants, or to use and to use the new technology. And this is the future: gasification of the coal, the clean technology that would allow us to still use the riches of our soil, but at the same time not to increase the pollution. But Poland is also an agriculture country, so a part of the energy comes from the from the cultivation of the different greens, and so we look also for the shale gas in Poland. Right. The so-called energy mix.
Yes, yes. I mean, Poland is confronting some of the same questions about fracking, so-called, exactly, as the United States is, because one, you've been not unlike Ukraine, not as heavily dependent on Russian gas, but still Russian gas. It would make Poland considerably more energy independent, but correct, you have to balance that against the agriculture.
The comfortable situation of the U.S. is that you can take your decision, and that's all, practically. In our case, it's if you want something, you have give something, means that if you need to have an approval of the European Union for this technology, which is still under examining.
Yes.
So, but it looks like we will have it. More and more countries are getting convinced that this is a future and this is not risky technology. But of course, it's one of the possibilities that we should use.
Right. I have to ask, we've been talked so much about history. I know that this year, 2014, has been named the year of Jan Karski in Poland. And I wonder if you could tell us a bit about that, why that decision was made, what will happen, and for some of our viewers at least, just who Jan Karski was and how he's perceived in the Polish national identity.
Jan Karski, without any doubt, he was an extraordinary man who, during the very difficult war times, as an Polish underground officer, he preparing the secret report on the extermination of Jews in the Nazi camps on the Polish territory, occupied territory. He visited in using the occupying police uniforms several places, risking his life. He prepared the special reports for Polish government in exile in London, and also visited the members of the British government, and then met here in Washington high-level officials, President of the United States, Roosevelt included, to present and to call for special measures to save the Jewish population in Europe. He saw the atrocities, the most extreme situation, and been living with that till the end of his life, suffering. I know that. I met him more than 20 years ago as a student, and he impressed me, not only because he did the great things and he was a courageous man, but also because he was a very modest man, a very humble man, who was not looking for the popularity and promotion. On the contrary, here nobody knew about this professor at Georgetown University, about his past for many years.
Yes.
Practically few years before his death, he passed away. It was discovered by his fellow professors and students that this man has a very special past, that he's a real hero who was posthumously condecorated with the Medal of Freedom, President Obama. And even as a professor of university, he taught the tolerance, the understanding between nations. So this is much more than the history of war. Although he what I call, he tried to save the world.
From itself, in a way.
But he didn't. He could not, but he did a lot, putting his life in risk, practically dedicated his whole life to that purpose.
So what does it mean now to say that this year, 2014, is the year of Jan Karski? How will that be observed in Poland?
Not only in Poland, here in the United States, of course, around the world, but I think that exactly this place, and Washington particularly, where we can visit a grave of Jan Karski in one of the cemeteries here, as very important to show his life, to present his posture, his values to the young people. Why did he do that? What did he want to change the world, to save so many people? Impossible. But still, he been striving to do the things that are impossible for the majority of us. So it's important to present to the public the history of this very special man through the exhibition movies, probably drama play. We certainly will do a special tribute to Jan Karski concert in Strathmore Philharmonic Harmony and Bethesda, and things that may remind also to many people, and to put the question, who was Jan Karski?
Yes, yes.
And this is the first step.
Understood.
To meet with a very special man.
One quick economic question that I neglected, and that is, will Poland join the Eurozone?
Of course, this is our duty. So this is a part of the treaty that Poland signed, joining the European Union. But of course, until the situation of the Eurozone is not stable, and until we don't fulfill all the conditions, financial condition, which is the level of the public debt, for example. Yes. Yes, we have a very good result as far as the inflation, which is very low, but we still have to improve a couple of things. So it may take a little bit, but definitely we will be in the Eurozone.
Two last questions. One is, I have to ask, you have a beautiful family, and one of the most difficult things in anyone's life is juggling two careers and children. Your wife is well-known as a television anchor, as a broadcast journalist in Poland. How do you pull it off? How do you juggle parenting and two careers and being in the high-profile role that you are as ambassador, and that she is as a television personality who's watched by literally millions of Poles?
And trying to continue. I mean, no one of us wants to give up. We feel like we can give something also to our kids. But the answer is I don't know. I don't know, and sometimes I think I'm not doing the things right. I probably should dedicate more time to the kids, and particularly at that stage of my life, one treats the duty of the father differently than when he's 25.
Yes, yes.
So it's like you watch the kids growing and changing, and it's a unique experience to be a father and a little bit of a grandfather at the same time. We both enjoy very much being a united family.
And I have to say, I was impressed as I came to visit. You and your wife the kids were coming home from school, or being brought home from school. So if you can fit that into the routine of an ambassador's life, I think that's pretty good evidence that you're trying hard, at least.
Again, the popular image, we are the regular people. And we have all the worries and all the pleasures that other people have. Right. But it is not like, in our case at least, that the chauffeur, the driver is with limousine picking up your kids. He will not do the homework with your kids. You have to take care of it personally. Right. And that's good because you can enjoy it. And we do enjoy it. Being together, it's very refreshing. It's very intellectually inspiring. It's tiring sometimes,
I'm sure
too.
Of that.
But it gives a lot of power.
No, I know. We have to learn new math and technology from our kids.
We didn't come to that point yet. I'm really afraid of it because the system of educational system is completely different. I mean,
yes,
they're being taught things that we didn't think about that they existed. Right. So.
Ambassador, I always wrap these interviews up with two related questions, and that is, what are your greatest concerns for the future of your country? What are your greatest hopes for the future of your country?
We have today a very stable political situation in Poland, and I hope it will maintain that way. Very liberal, open-minded, tolerant government and the ruling party. We have observed during last years growing nationalism, racism in the world, and it worries me. I'm worried about not only Poland's future, but in some other, not only European countries, yes, but mostly European countries where the nationalism, racism looks like a response to the current problems, which is not true.
Yes.
It's the easiest, the most populist reply to the problems that we face in
it's an emotional release, but not a solution.
Of course not. Yeah. But we should be aware of it, and I hope it won't go this way. But there are some signs that it might happen. Mm.
And your hopes?
And my hope? Well, my hope is to have Olympic Games in Poland, in a democratic, liberal country.
And that would be sort of a seal on all the accomplishments?
To some extent, and to have all countries possible visiting.
Yes.
All leaders, which would be a clear sign that we are doing fine, that we have a country that really, after so many, I wouldn't say years, centuries even, came back to play its good, positive role in Europe and in the world.
Yes. Well, Ambassador, thank you for taking time to talk with us today. I hope it felt more like a conversation than a quiz, and it's been a pleasure. And thank you for joining us here at Diplomatic Connections. We hope that you'll join our website, that you'll have a chance to see these extended interviews with professional diplomats representing their country, but also giving you a chance to see a bit of their lives, to see a bit of their careers, to see a bit of their career path. We're here so that you can be connected to the diplomatic world. Please visit our website at Diplomatic Connections. You can download our magazine, and you can see a series of interviews that help make the connections that make diplomacy what it is. Thank you, and goodbye.